Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is home ownership consultant Ross Kay from thewealthyhomeowner.ca. Welcome back to the show, Ross.
And thanks for having me back, Jim.
Ross, a lot of talk about homes selling way above asking price. We have a listener asking us, we're considering bidding on a home and are trying to understand why so many homes are selling above asking price. What should we be looking at in terms of bidding price?
Well, the first thing I would tell these folks, Jim, is that if they are being led to believe that they need to pay more than what the home is worth through their realtor communicating that houses are selling above asking price, they need to contact their provincial regulator. So if any consumer listening to this show hears a realtor stating that houses are selling above asking price, so if you hear a realtor stating that to you, okay, you should immediately contact the regulator in your province. So in Ontario, that would be RICO. In Calgary, that would be OREA. Or in Alberta, that would be OREA, and in British Columbia, that would be the OSCRE. Because what the realtor is doing is they are misrepresenting a listing strategy by realtors as a market phenomenon. This is why you can't compare asking price to sell price ratios in 2021 versus 2020. 2019, 2018, 2013, 2008. You see, commencing around 2015. Now, there were outliers where it happened before. There were realtors who started to test whether or not provincial regulators were going to enforce the Trading Act for deceptive advertising. And they began to test it. So I remember an article in the Hamilton Spectator here in Ontario where someone had asked the regulator, can a realtor underprice a property in order to try to get more activity on it? Well, the regulator wouldn't really give an answer. The regulator, it was not the head regulator, it was like not vice president, whatever the underling is in a structure like that. And they didn't give a 100% clear answer. Well, that immediately got embraced by organized real estate, and it got misinterpreted as being something that was legal, when in fact it's not. So this practice of underlisting properties began. It used to be you never saw a $1 listing on realtor.ca. Now you'll see a couple dozen. What happened is over around 2016, I think in British Columbia, 2017 in Ontario, you had realtors who knowingly underlisted properties to try to generate multiple bids on the property. Now, understand, for the previous 40 years, that never happened because the regulators had said it's unethical, you can't do that. But then when organized real estate gained control over these regulators through self-regulation, over the course of probably a dozen years, the legal requirements that are written in your Provincial Trading Act got misrepresented to these non-realtors who are now in these self-regulating bodies as saying, oh no, that's not really what it meant. And then over time, that becomes believed. So what you have today is you have, basically the most ridiculous market for a home buyer to ever have to buy in, because realtors believe that they can speak freely now about houses selling over asking price. And they believe they get to pretend, well, it's possible that the realtors actually believe this themselves. So it is really possible that inexperienced realtors believe that houses sell over asking price, and that's a sign of a busy housing market. It's possible that they believe that. So let me not put the blame on them. That said, that doesn't excuse them from violations of your Provincial Trading Act. The underpriced listing strategy has increased each passing month from when it was instituted in your local housing market. So in British Columbia, that would have probably been around 2014, became known and practiced, heavily 2015. You then had those foreign buyer bids. Oh, the foreign buyers are bidding over asking. Well, the realtors, let's be honest, the realtors were also underlisting the properties. And then the same thing has happened here in Ontario. Became heavy in 2017, 2018, when things started to slow. All of a sudden now they're trying it more because the market's slowing down. Oh, maybe we can get more interest this way. These are all ways just to manipulate you, the home buyer. That's all that's going on here. You have to understand, you are buying into a home trading infrastructure that is built solely to benefit sellers and realtors and to work against you. If you hear if your realtor tells you, oh, you know something? Yeah, there's a lot of houses are selling over asking, and they don't explain to you that it's a strategy, that it has nothing to do with reality, then you can charge them by filing a complaint with your provincial regulator. If you question this, you're welcome to include my firm's name when you send these complaints to your regulator, and we can revisit it. You know, I should let your listeners know. 3 weeks ago, we mentioned that we sent out a tweet to the Competition Bureau on our account, our business account. And the regulator came back to us and says, well, if you see this deceptive advertising practice, please supply us with responses. Now, you have to understand, over the last, 3 or 4 years, there's probably about 30 realtors, housing analysts, bloggers who have blocked us on Twitter when we tweet the word back, false, misleading, deceptive. So those people had already blocked us. But on 3 weeks ago, it was silence. Clearly the mute button has been used. They don't want to have us seeing their words because we have the ability to basically have any realtor in Canada charged if we want to. We know the laws that they break, the rules that they violate because of our command of the knowledge in this space. You're asking me a question based on a myth. Houses selling above asking price is a result of listing agents, listing brokerages, strategically underlisting the properties to try to generate multiple bids. As many multiple bids as possible, so the foolish, inexperienced home buyers and their foolish, inexperienced realtors will then in turn increase the amount of money they're willing to pay for the property. It's not the truth. When you see a local real estate board quoting a asking price to sales price ratio, and you consistently see that number is above 100%, you're just seeing the full outcome of the public being lied to by local realtors who underlist the properties to generate multiple bids. It has nothing to do with reality. It is a myth that apparently is today even believed by realtors.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. A listener asks, it seems to me that the Canadian government is supporting the artificially inflated housing boom in Canada to protect the investments of foreign home buyers. Typically, the housing market in Canada had 7-year boom and bust cycle. Now we've entered almost 20 years without a significant correction of 10% or more in the housing market. When viewing data from the greater Toronto areas, how much longer does Ross believe this bull cycle in Canadian real estate will continue? And what does he think will inevitably cause a major correction?
Wow. That is a mouthful. I wish the listener would have gave us their name so I could have spoke to them directly. Obviously I have on my screen here this question now. I've got it scrolled across here. So this question is just loaded with all the myths that the poor innocent public has been told to believe, and that, in all fairness, even policymakers themselves believe. So it seems that the Canadian government is supporting the artificially inflated housing boom in Canada to protect the interests of foreign buyers. Look, the government is clueless. I watch the words that come out of the mouths of government officials. Adam Vaughan from Toronto, Christina Freeland, Tim Lane, the Bank of Canada, Bob Dugan from CMHC. Like, I watch the words they say, and it's just clearly that they have believed every single bit of propaganda realtors have fed them for the last 30 years. The government has not artificially done this knowingly so. They're clueless. Adam Vaughan believes that if you densify Toronto, it's going to make housing more affordable. Christina Freeland believes if you build affordable rental housing, it's going to make housing more affordable. Well, for 95% of the Canadian public, it's not. It's going to do the opposite. Foreign buyers. You should never allow a non-Canadian to own a Canadian residential home. End of discussion. But realtors have worked for decades to allow that to happen. In Vancouver, for the sake of the argument, in 2016, okay, in Vancouver, the realtors knew foreign buyers were buying ultra-luxury classed homes, but they didn't tell the public that that's what's going on. And it's worse. Not only did they not tell the public, what they did is they allowed it to inflate average purchase price, which they called the average house price, or the benchmark prices. They allowed this across a wide variety of segments of the market. That inflation was because you didn't have a full sales chain taking place to hold the average down. You had a non-local buyer, which is very unusual in a market like Vancouver, because they have to be super wealthy to enter that market, buying ultra-luxury class homes without buying a $3 million home without the $2 million, $1.5, $1 million, $750,000, $500,000 homes that normally are sold in order to have that home sell. That average of that chain didn't happen. So instead of having an average, for the sake of the argument, at 1.2 million in this case, the average all of a sudden jumped to 3 million overnight. You had over 100% house price gain in that. Those two $3 million homes it sold. One hit that it sold through the local sales chain, but one that it sold to an to a wealthy foreign buyer, non-local buyer. Then the average price all of a sudden overnight jumps by that amount because you had an extra $3 million home in the sales chain. There's that myth debunked. Typically, the housing market in Canada had about a 7-year. There's no data anywhere in the world that shows Canada has a 7-year boom-bust cycle. Canada had a 4-year boom cycle in the 80s, and then it had a 11-year bust cycle throughout the 90s and into 2000s. You could argue house prices hadn't fully recovered from 1989 in 2008 when the Great Recession hit. You could argue that. I'm not going to explain how you could argue that, but with data, I could argue that. So this boom-bust cycle, this is another myth told by organized real estate. Oh, housing markets normally go up and down in 7 years ago, but this one's gone on for 20 years. Well, guess what, folks? 20 years before that, there wasn't even accurate data. unless you had collected it, you can't find it anywhere. It doesn't exist any longer. It's gone. It's disappeared. MLS systems have disposed of it. It's gone. Now we've entered almost 20 years without a significant correction of 10% or more. Since when is a 10% correction a significant correction? Why do people speak in percents other than that's what realtors want you to speak in? Speak in dollars. A 10% correction on a $200,000 purchase is $20,000. A 10% correction on a $1 million is $200,000. That is a world of difference between those two numbers. A world of difference between those, $100,000 a world of difference between those two numbers. It's very difficult in a low-price housing market for realtors to fool the public. Very, very, very difficult because the numbers are so small. When a 10% gain is only $20,000, the public can really see that by looking at the houses that are on the market. And it can be debunked very easily. But when houses are selling at $1 million, when buyers are spending $1 million on average, purchasing homes worth $1 million, that can really easily be hidden by your local realtors. And that's what's going on. So when you say 20 years and 10%, we're going to say that's not true either. The housing market came out of 2009, and you're about 2011 before the historical 1988-89 price was achieved again, what the price had to return to. So it's only been that short window after 10 years, half what you said, that would be the case. Now, you can select small windows of time, 3 to 5 years, which in a housing market is a small window of time, and you can believe whatever the realtors tell you about single detached homes, foreign buyers, everything else. I mean, let's discuss the bull-bear market myth. Oh, are you a bear? I'm a bull. No, you're all rascals. You're all spouting nonsense. There is no such thing as a bear and a bull market in housing. This isn't stocks. This isn't something that you can go out and spend $100 with buying Royal Bank stock. These are massive, massive purchases. Housing markets are always naturally bull markets by this definition this person is using. What I mean by that is the way that the sales take place, it's naturally inflationary on price. Naturally inflationary. It's got nothing to do with being a bull market. It's the way the MLS house price pyramid works. The MLS house price pyramid is designed to create house price gains annually equal to the average commission rate charged in that market. Now, you have to understand, if your market was established in the 1970s or 80s, when real estate commissions were 6% in your market, then your MLS infrastructure is still built for that 6%. So if your realtors are only charging on average 3.87%, which is the national average today right now, your MLS system is still functioning on that 6% narrative. That means the design of the MLS average price is to create a, quotation marks, bull market appearance of the market so that you will happily pay your realtor commissions. In the 1970s, my dad knew this, my great uncle knew this. In the 1980s, my mom and dad knew this, and when I started in the business, they told me how it worked. And when my wife started in the business, we told her how it worked. My cousins, what are they? When they're younger, they would be, I don't know, my cousins way down the chain. Okay, they're now selling real estate in Ontario. They know how it works. This isn't magic, folks. Your MLS house price pyramid is designed to capitalize on the 12 months that take place in a year. That's why realtors use percentage change, because 12 doesn't work with a 10%. Get it? 10%? Doesn't work, so you're always confused. You believe this is a bull market, when in fact the design of the MLS system is to produce positive house price illusion, which you will believe, which eventually, because you do believe it, becomes the new reality.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. Ross, today, the Canadian Real Estate Association announced the housing market was slowing, but at the same time, prices were up 38% year over year. Are we still in a bear market, or has the market moved into bull territory?
There we go. We just discussed in the last section. Okay, so listen, folks. Last week, the Canadian Real Estate Association released the average price for May. They not only released it, they published it. But it was only today, on the 15th of Tuesday, that anywhere in the nation the average price was released. The only place in Canada. Every single news outlet reported it today. They didn't report it last week when it was released, because the press doesn't know to see where Korea releases it. You didn't see any realtors in Canada last Friday saying what the average price is going to be on Tuesday, because they don't know where to look. This is how clueless this industry is. The Canadian Real Estate Association had it published last week what the average selling price for May was, but it only made news headlines today. They're trying to say prices are up 38% year over year. Then they're trying to tell you that the housing market is cooling. So let me explain something, how we read housing markets. May traditionally is a busy month. Okay, folks, May traditionally, on a national basis, which is what Korea talks about in the news headlines, is a busy month. This month in May, the housing market actually got, about 8% busier. 8% busier than it was in April. Now, so the market gets busier, and organized real estate says the market is cooling. Now, when the market is cooling, organized real estate says it's getting busier. This is the world that I'm living in. Look, folks, right now, the housing market in May was the busiest housing market that has taken place in history. Okay, folks? Now, what does that mean? What that means is the sales chain is so long right now, so long, that you need a whole bunch of homes to sell in order for people to move up the property ladder. That's why, back in, I think it was March, the average price peaked, I think, at about $716,000. Let me look at my data here. $716,000. Okay? So in March of 21, the national price hit $716,828. It dropped in April. It's dropped again in May. Okay? Interesting, Ross. So if you went back to 2018, of course, the price increased between March and May. If you went back to 2017, the price decreased from May to July. Yeah, it decreased May to July. So when you hear all these different things, there's many reasons why their sales stats don't compare. This April, you've got to go back to 2010 to have a comparable number of sales counts. Then you have to adjust those sales for a change in the housing stock. Then you have to adjust those sales for sale by owners being included in this year's count, and they weren't included. Zero of them. Zero. There were zero included in 2010. You also have to realize that in May there was a bit of a slowdown because some of the provinces were locked down again. So it's very dishonest when they present the market to the public this way, as they have for the last 500 months. It's just dishonest. It's unethical. The only reason they do it is because they're salespeople. They're producing a report that is designed to convince you to go and buy real estate. I don't know if the listeners have ever, they should go to Korea Stats today, and they should read the homepage on Korea Stats, And they should start at the top of that page and read their way down to the bottom and see if they actually have any understanding what is said in that report. Because instead of saying things simply to people, so people have the ability to say, hey, wait a second, that sounds kind of fishy. Why are they saying that? They hide it behind a series of different ways of communicating the market to the public. First of all, they state down at the bottom footnotes that every metric they're using is seasonally adjusted. Then the second stat they say is, brackets not seasonally adjusted, actual. Okay. So you would have to understand that just moving from one line to the second line, that yes, the first line was seasonally adjusted, but they didn't say seasonally adjusted. You had to read the footnote. The second line read, not seasonally adjusted, actual. So, okay, so does that imply the first number was actual? And then they continue on with this back and forth with every single talking point that they give in their reports. It's impossible for a member of the press to read that report and understand what's being said. It's impossible for CMHC to read that report and understand what's being said. It's impossible for 99.9% of the realtors out there today to read that report and even understand all of the history behind each single sentence and which of those each single sentences actually means and why it's written that way, how that has been wordsmithed month after month after month after month to confuse everyone, at the same time present a positive reason for home buyers to buy a home. What you heard from Korea today had nothing to do with whether you're able to call this a bear market or a bull market. As I told you in the previous section, the MLS system, the MLS House Price Pyramid Scheme, is designed to present an increasing average house price illusion. If you just take the time to go to Korea Stats, Google Korea Stats, CREASTSTATS, a link will come up, you go to that page. You're going to go to that page and it's going to say released for May for June the 15th. Okay, you're going to be able to read that report. Remember, the average purchase price is $688, $282, I think is what it is. That price was already released last week, but the press only reported on it this week. That gave the Canadian Real Estate Association's staff about a week to wordsmith the document, to have their lawyers check it over to make sure that it couldn't be misrepresented, legally challenged for being a misrepresentation. It's had the board of directors protected because you'll see the president of Korea doesn't specifically talk about any single data point in that report. He uses just uses another one of those random vague comments about using a realtor. All housing markets are local. It is just simply, folks, something that organized real estate is not going to escape this time around. They have let the last 16 months go with fostering the greatest house price illusion in that period of time, like over that number of months, that has ever taken place. They have used every sales pitch in the book to convince everybody what they're telling you is the truth. They have convinced everybody that what they're telling. They've even convinced their own members that all these talking points are the truth. Their time is up. We are launching tomorrow a $100,000 prize for any realtor in Canada who can prove house prices changed in a month. $100,000 is on the line starting tomorrow. All they have to do is find 5 months over the last 500 where they can prove house prices change, and they collect $100,000. Now you know why our social media accounts have gone silent, because that's Korea shaking in their boots. Anything that you hear from a realtor about a housing market that they can't prove, they need to lose their license for. They need to be charged. The best agents in the business keep their mouth shut, and because they're simple salespeople, salesmen. They know that they're in a position of power and that they need to not mislead the public. We're about to watch the consequence of Greg Klump's hiring in 1992 accumulate as the pandemic, we see a nation being vaccinated. And I do not see any way that organized real estate in Canada will survive after this is done.
Ross, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me on, Jim.
I've been speaking with home ownership consultant Ross Kay from the wealthyhomeowner.ca, Canada's authority on home ownership. If you have any questions for Ross or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HoweStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HoweStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HoweStreet.com radio is a production of HoweStreet Media Incorporated.